I'm Robert Kinzel with Nomium, based in Hong Kong, and this Prezi video is about being a producer and helping make virtual sessions successful. If you like the tips that you hear in this video, you can go to the URL in the description and download a handout of all of these suggestions. Before we get into today's content, some of you might see this Prezi video and say, it looks a little bit different than the other Prezi videos that I've seen. Well, you would be correct. Today, I'm using the app that helps track my head as I move around. So if you see my video moving a little bit differently, the app is doing exactly what it's supposed to do, and it integrates very well with Prezi video, as you can see. Now let's get started with what is a producer. Well, we know in a music studio, a producer helps create and finalize the songs that go on the album, and in a TV or movie studio, they help create the video. What we're talking about is in a virtual session, in an online workshop, or in a webinar, having an assistant, having a co-host, having tech help, or having all of those. Sometimes the producer is live on video helping, and sometimes they're simply behind the scenes answering questions and managing the participants and sending suggestions to the host. Have you hosted an online session and used a producer, or have you been a producer yourself? Well, what made it successful? Also, have you been a host or have you been a participant and seen a session go bad? It went way over time, there were tech problems, there were a lot of questions from the audience, and the host simply couldn't keep up. Well, in that case, a producer might have been a great idea. When might we want a producer in an online session? There's quite a few reasons. If the host is new to the topic, if the host is new to the platform or the tech, having a producer there to help things go smoothly is a great idea. If the audience members are new to the platform, to the tech, or to the topic, having a producer to answer their questions or privately message them is a great idea. It helps the host keep going and not pause. It helps the audience keep paying attention without waiting for one person's question to be addressed publicly. The more people we have, the more problems that might arise or the more questions that might come up. So having a producer with a large number of people is a great idea. Sometimes sessions didn't need a producer, but having one there helped the host know if something goes wrong, it will be handled. It gives them peace of mind and confidence during that live session. Now, a lot of people think a producer is only used when the program is happening, but a producer can be valuable before a session. A producer and the host can talk with each other about the program. They can make backup plans. They can set up a side channel of communication. If something goes wrong during the live session, the producer could come off of mute and say, oh, host, wait a minute, there's something wrong. But if we have a backup channel set up that the host is monitoring, we can communicate well without the audience knowing something went wrong or knowing that we're talking to each other. Also before the session, doing a dry run, testing the tech, and making sure from a participant's point of view, everything looks good. Those are all great ideas. Also, the producer can help manage the audience members and their questions that come in over email before the session even begins. Now, let's imagine the session starts at 9 o'clock, but at 8:30, the host and the producer join, and one by one, the different participants start coming to the session. The producer can be helpful before the official start time. The host is often double checking their slides. They're double checking their tech. They're double checking their activity flow. And a producer can be there to talk with the participants, to answer different questions without the host getting distracted. Sometimes the producer might even show up before the host is even on camera or on the microphone. Also, during the session entry, we might have a waiting room, and the producer can let those audience members in without distracting the host. Now it's 9 o'clock and your session has officially begun and the host starts the show. The producer's overall role has many different elements. The first element is managing participants. They may have a question and the producer can answer the question. Maybe it's publicly about the tech. Maybe it's privately because somebody has a tech question that isn't affecting anybody else, and the producer can send those private messages. The producer can look at the different videos happening on the screen, and if they think there's a problem with the participant, they can address it. And if there's any behavioral problems, maybe someone has turned off their video when they should have it on, or maybe they can't find the unmute button. Maybe there are requirements for our participants or our students, and they need to be focused in the session, and we notice people are multitasking. The producer can be there as an enforcer to message them privately and say, I know you're doing something else. We don't want you to lose any points in this course. Of course, if you're working with business clients, we don't need an enforcer all the time. We just need somebody there to help make sure the participants are comfortable with their activities and their participation. The next element is monitoring the host. The host has a lot of things happening. They may have a lot of windows open. They may be sharing their screen or different apps they have running, and sometimes they share the wrong app. Or if they're sharing a PowerPoint, they may end up sharing the presenter view instead of the audience view, and a producer can be there to quickly come off of mute and say, oh, that's the wrong screen. Or again, if there's a backup channel, they can message the host privately if they think there's a problem. The third element is overseeing the chat. Again, the host probably has a lot of windows open. And if the host is trying to make eye contact with the camera, to have virtual eye contact with the audience, they may not even notice what's happening in the chat, especially if there's a large number of people and there's a lot of chats that are flowing very quickly. Well, the producer is there to monitor that chat, to answer the questions publicly or to send those private messages. And of course, if you have a group of students or you just have a joker in the room, making sure that there's not something happening in chat that shouldn't be happening. We could also have a second producer and their only role is chat, where the first producer is monitoring something else. The next element of being a great producer is facilitating any of the platform functions. Most virtual platforms have a whiteboard. They have polls. They have emojis and reactions. Having a producer with host or co-host security permissions allows them to facilitate and even run those functions while the host facilitates verbally and interacts with the participants. One of the key functions in most platforms, or at least the great platforms, are breakout rooms. Producers can be there to bounce from one breakout room to another if there's a request for help, or they can jump from breakout room to breakout room to just casually monitor or answer questions, making sure that all the participants are doing what they're supposed to do. Now, here's a quick tip if you're using Zoom. Zoom has wonderful video breakout rooms. The co-host or anyone who is nominated to be the co-host in the Zoom security settings can go from one breakout room to another. Keep in mind, they will need to go to their main breakout room, let's say it's breakout room number 1, before they can go to breakout room number 2 to number 3 to number 4. If the co-host is in the main room, they will not be able to jump to breakout room 4 without going first to breakout room number 1. And I mention that because a lot of people have that question and they say, oh, the co-host can't jump to breakout room number 4, 5, and 6. Well, they can, but there's an additional step of going to their first breakout room. Next element of being a great producer is coordinating the third-party apps that we might be using. We might have a poll or a survey or some kind of interactive app that the participants are running in another browser window or on a tablet or a smartphone. Having the producer control that is a great idea. It allows the host to stay on the original platform, interacting with the participants verbally and on video. Also, some of the third-party apps might not work correctly as a participant. If the host or producer is using the administrative view, the participant view might be different. So the producer could have their phone, tablet, or a second computer open as a participant to make sure everything does look good. There's a lot of other things the producer could do during the live session based on the host's needs. So have the conversation with the host and say, what will work for you in this live session? Do you want me to stay silent or do you want me to be vocal? Over time, when there's a host and a producer coordinating different programs together, they will get in a natural flow and pick up on the things that work best for that team. Now, some of you are saying, yay, my role as a producer is finished. The meeting is ending. There are some things that the producer can do after the session. Of course, they can debrief with the host and say what went well, what didn't go well, and what can we do better next time. Or they can just give helpful feedback for the host on their presentation style, their voice, their body language, their different tech, and their video. Also after the session, the host might need help answering questions that come in over email or facilitating and evaluating the different feedback and evaluations that we send out. The final thing to remember about being a producer and also about being a host with a producer, give credit to your producers and get credit as a producer. As a producer, thank the host, but definitely as the host, thank the producer, sometimes privately, but if you can, thank them publicly. Most people enjoy public recognition, and thanking people lets them know that they did a good job, and it hopefully motivates them to work with you in another session. Once again, if you like these tips, you can download our handout in the URL below, and I look forward to seeing you in another Prezi video.